We're going to be looking taking a focus on the leather industry, given that it is said that the leather industry actually contributes around 1.5 to GDP and employs over 22,000 people. However, 70 to 80% of its products are of low quality. So this afternoon, I'm joined by the CEO of Apex, Leather Apex, that is Madam Beatrice Mwasi, to take us through this conversation to find out what is ailing the leather sector and what are stakeholders and industry players doing to ensure that this changes and that it drives the economy. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, we've already seen that there's a lot of potential in the leather sector, and we see the government has identified the leather sector as one of the key drivers to support the Big Four agenda under the manufacturing sector. But now, before we get to what is happening, let's look at the challenges that this sector has been grappling with that has curtailed its development so far.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, before I get to the challenges, allow me to give you a snapshot of the history. Around the 60s, that is, I think, the time when the leather industry was doing very well, because around about that time, leather was the highest foreign income earner. So basically, just imagine a time when leather was bringing in more than coffee and tea. You know, people grew up knowing that coffee and other horticultural produce are the best sellers in terms of the global market. But there was a time that leather was doing very well. But then we have been on a downward trend ever since, up to today. And we feel the opportunities abound. The market has never changed. Demand actually of the leather goods continues going up, both locally and internationally. Today, as we speak in Kenya, the demand for leather goods outweigh supply. Yeah, so we are talking about a sector, we're talking about the kind of products whereby, you know, if you were to produce footwear today, you have a ready market, because annually Kenyans consume about 42 million pairs. Out of the 42 million pairs, those of us in the leather industry are able only to make 3.3 million or 15 million pairs of leather shoes that are bought annually. So if you look at that, really, the demand is quite high. And I'm just touched on footwear. So, but we have other leather goods. We have jackets. Just everybody who thinks about a leather jacket thinks about where? Ethiopia. Yeah. You hardly get to even think about Kenya. So really looking at opportunities that are bound both locally and internationally, looking at the fact that we have a very, very sound, solid raw material base, then the question arises as to why are we not able to exploit this opportunity?
Yes, good question. Why?
And that is now, I come to your question about challenges. Now, we have actually challenges that are running across the value chain. Right from production of leather, that is the gear at the farm, you know, the herder of livestock, straight to the marketer of leather goods. So if I may begin at the bottom of the value chain at the farm. Now, the guy at the farm who is herding his animals does not really care about the skin and hide on the animal. They're just bothered about the animal, milk and meat. So that makes what? Leather a byproduct. Nobody cares about it. So what happens if we are talking about people in the Asa region, you know, the arid and semi-arid areas, of course, because of cattle rustling, they will be marking their cattle on the back and really branding. Because there's, you know, so the traditional branding of cattle. So they will not bother so much about what will happen to the skin and hide. Because of that, we have a very low recovery rate of the skins and hides. What does that mean? Yes, we have a very huge livestock population of about 60 million, but in terms of recovery, when the animals are slaughtered and you go to the abattoirs to collect the skins and hides that then are brought to the tanners, I think about 60% are usable.
You've mentioned slaughtering, yeah?
Then we end up losing about 40%. So you can just imagine losing a whole 40% of what we are producing at the farm in terms of leather. That is very big.
That is on the low bottom, Now you've mentioned about something, slaughtering, and there's also the issue of how quality quality is compromised during slaughtering. There's even that our abattoirs or local abattoirs are not well equipped to actually slaughter these animals as they should, so that we get as much as we can from these skins and hides.
Yes, thank you very much for that. No, so now farm level we have a challenge, and that is how animals are managed at the farm. Yeah, and besides the branding, of course, there's the caning, and then like ticks and other like diseases that affect animals at the farm. Then now from there we get now to the slaughterhouses, and other slaughterhouses, of course, because of poor slaughtering practices, then we also have a lot of damages happening on the skin or the hide during slaughter. So poor slaughtering practices, and also of course the equipment and technology utilized, But again, also at this particular point, we also have a population that does not really attach value on the skin and hide. And hide. So at the slaughterhouse, they just bothered about
the meat.
The meat. So if you're bringing in discussions about them investing in technology so that they can now have it, be able to get the skin in a better way, really that is secondary to their main business. That's not their core business. So we also have a lot of damaging on skins and hides happening at the abattoir place. Yeah.
Now we've moved from the slaughter, and maybe would this also be the reason, one of the factors that informs that we focus so much on what we export is they're calling wet blue is what we focus on exporting, and we do not get so much out of that. What happens? I mean, we'd want to understand the value chain, why we focused on the wet blue, yet we have other opportunities. The issue of value addition and the impact it would have on the industry.
No, thank you very much. Actually, the reason as to why we are still dealing in wet blue and a certain percent degree of raw hides, but largely wet blue, is because we do not have the capability to value add. Let me actually say it. Everybody sings about value addition, but the naked truth is that most Kenyans do not really know how to approach value addition. You see, so because of that, we are basically shipping out our raw materials. I consider even wet blue raw material because we have an added value. Packing in containers and giving countries that are adding value, and bringing back the items, finished products. Finished products that really, fetch 12 times the value of the raw hide and skin. So if you're able to bring it to the second level, which is wet blue, at least we're able to mark up twice. But if we were able to add value to a finished leather product, we would have multiplied the value by 12. And that is basically generating so much revenue to the industry. Right now, as we stand, we actually exporting about 95% of our generated raw materials either in wet blue or raw.
Now you've talked about capacity, and the problem relies on the capacity. We lack the capacity to scale up to value addition. So as an industry player, as a stakeholder in this sector, what to do?
Actually, what we lack is not only capacity, we lack capability. So we lack the skills, knowledge and skills, and also we lack technology to be able to value add.
So how do we marry, or how are you marrying the two?
Actually, that is what basically formed my organization, Leather Apex. Because you see, we said it's only a fool who does same thing, same way,
expecting a different
result.
Yes.
So we looked back and asked what landed us where we are as an industry. What is it that we haven't been getting right? And the answer is simple, because you cannot acquire market space if you are not competitive. So the simple answer to that is we needed to be competitive. We have to be competitive, both locally, regionally, and internationally. You see, so that is why. So lack of being competitive is what has actually pushed us out of most markets, and us failing to be able to take up certain opportunities. Now, for us to be able now to enhance our capabilities as the Leather Apex, we said we must attain efficiency. And not only efficiency at my own company level, but efficiency across the value chain. Actually, efficiency across the value chain. So now, the guy we are talking about at the farm, how can we make sure that we optimize efficiency at the farm? At the abattoir, they are a very critical component of the value chain. How do we optimize efficiency? Your work is, of course, to make sure that we get the skin or hide in the best condition possible. We equip you to ensure that you do your bit to the best way possible. Then we move now to these guys in the middle who need to think, create, innovate, produce, and supply the market with highly competitive product. You know, adding value. The guy at the tannery has to make sure that they give us the best quality leather. So they receive the hide from the abattoir supply to them. But for us to be able to add value and generate a competitive product, then the tanner also needs to make sure that they invest in technology and also in knowledge and skills to be able to produce high quality skins and hide. So the conversation we are having at the apex level in terms of streamlining the value chain to attain efficiency, we're also asking tanners, okay, look here guys, we've been running alone. That is why you don't mind shipping out our hides and skins in either raw form or wet blue. 95% you are packing and sending out. So, but right now we've come in, those of us who are willing and able to add value. Can we hold a conversation on how you can become efficient? Because if you are efficient, then I do what? I also become efficient. Now, even those of us now in manufacturing, we challenged in a number of ways. Challenged in terms of design. Yeah, and design doesn't begin at design level. It begins at being able to understand market trends. Yeah, being able to translate market intelligence into design concept or product concepts, and also the aspect of now turning these concepts into very competitive products. Knowledge, skills,
and capacity
and technology also. Then now, lastly, we also as a value chain, we also beginning to hold conversation on how do we then conquer these markets. Once we have competitive products, how do we, because it's like you may produce a very good product, but then you're holding it.
That's the issue. Are we focused on quality assurance in as far as our products are going to be concerned? Because if you look at Ethiopia, it's already a competitor in as far as leather products are concerned, and soon we're going to be playing catch up with such a country. So from where you sit, when it comes to quality assurance that actually can compete, that our products are going to be able to compete globally, what are you doing to ensure that this happens?
Now, thank you very much. Because see, like for you to be able to compete, you definitely must be able to also conform and comply or even supersede quality expectations. Yeah. So what we're doing as an apex body, we are working closely with KEBS, and we're also working closely with other partners like Commercial LPI now, ALPI, which is All Africa Leather and Leather Products Institute, and through partnership and linkages with them, we can still access the Ethiopian lab, because Ethiopia have an international leather lab, and by being able to have our products tested and getting some reports and advice on how we can upgrade quality from that lab is also a plus to us. But even before we get there, we have our own KEBS. So right now, actually, KEBS has been able to establish standards that will guide the parameters we need to comply with in order to really deliver quality products into the market. So as an apex body, what we do is ensuring that we have quality guidelines and running programs. Now, from last year and going into this particular period up to 2022, we are running extensive programs on how to domesticate quality systems within
our value chain in as far as leather production is concerned. Now the big question is that we've seen the government, especially President Uhuru Kenyatta, give a directive and said that the leather industry's production they're targeting 20 million leather shoes by 2022 and an increased export value to 50 billion within the next 5 years. 2022, actually, that is under 2 years and actually 2 years and a half. Is this feasible? And if it is feasible, what should be done so that we can actually achieve this?
If we get moving, and actually that is what got us off our feet, because we said, okay, we are talking about 2022, we're talking about how many years from now? About 2.5, about 2.5, because like the last year, everybody switches off and we get into politicking mode again. Now, what we decided, why we decided to get off our feet is because we said we need strategies. we need to have business models that will be able to power that. See, that is a directive, that is a very good strategic plan contained in the Big Four agenda. I like the fact that we have numbers. Now, working from the numbers, the question was, how do we get to deliver these numbers that are provided?
Good question. 20 million is not a joke, and 50 billion in terms of earnings is not a joke.
So, but we see now, even the 50 billion, we are saying that we can still be able to even generate out of the exports from this country. The trick here is be able to produce high quality products, competitive products. Local market is big enough, but we have the regional market that we can exploit, that we are barely exploiting in terms of leather goods. And then now we have you know, the bigger, wider global market that is facilitated under bilateral trade agreement and multilateral trade agreement between Kenya and other countries. Get back to the question of how do we deliver the numbers. Now, right now, good things are, so on one hand, we have, you know, like the numbers given under the Big Four agenda, but on the other hand also, even government gave us an opportunity. They gave us a window to supply disciplined forces. You know, like with leather goods, you know, footwear and belts and holsters, you know. So looking at the supply to, if we were to, you know, adequately supply, I mean, we meet standards and be able to supply disciplined forces, that is a big market.
It's an opening, yeah?
It's an open and big market. But then we have even touched school-going children. You know? You see now, and you know, every child from kindergarten all the way to university. Of course, university, you may want to wear your fashionable shoe, but all the way to high school, you need to have, you know, that uniform, a kind of pair of shoes.
So you're still targeting into
So we are targeting. So we've set up a strategy whereby you're saying we appreciate the window given to us to supply disciplined forces, but then we also have schools to target. So we also are positioning ourselves to take up supply to schools. And once we are done with the Kenyan market, we are also now beginning to advance towards exploiting the ESC market. Now ESC, we are going to then COMESA, and then from COMESA, of course, right now conversation is about the tripartite. SADC is coming in, and then of course now the new trade arrangement. You know, Africa.
So what I'm hearing from this is that you're ready to take up the challenge given what government targets to generate. That is 50 billion in the next, by 2022, with 20 million at least shoes made locally. Yes,
and as an apex body, what we've decided to do is actually to set up programs that will deliver that. And some of those programs are the ones we shall be launching tomorrow. So we said, you know, like we can't just wish the numbers to happen. We need to have very well laid out and robust strategies to that. And therefore, the strategies are actually informing the projects and programs we shall be running.
And I think also what you should be keen on, and from what I've heard, is that they need to change the mindset that our cattle, our goats and sheep are not just good for wool, meat and milk, that also we can use the skin and tithe.
Thank you.
We boost production, right?
And that means we also need to go around and sensitize farmers so that they get to appreciate the value on attaching the skin and the hides on their animals. So because I think if we don't sensitize them, they will focus on what is of value.
Okay, very well said. If you've just tuned in, today we were putting into focus the leather industry, given that government has really focused on this subsector and said that it is one of the key drivers in as far as its Big Four agenda is concerned, focusing on manufacturing and the call to practice value addition along the value chain to ensure that it becomes lucrative as it was in the 60s. We've been joined by the CEO of Leather Apex, Madam Beatrice Mwasi, saying yes, the future indeed is bright for if only everyone in the value chain as far as the leather industry is concerned gets on board. And yes, the 20 million shoes is possible and above, and the 50 billion revenue generated in the industry is possible in the next 2.5 years.